This is the Insta360 RS 1-inch 1 RS. It's the 1-inch model, has a really confusing name, and it produces great image quality. It is a monster of a device, but it's also a monster of a camera that is a bit difficult to handle. It's not made in the best way. This 360 camera was meant to go on a selfie stick like this. And there is a problem with it. You may not notice, but this camera is very heavy. It's heavy for what it is, and it's top heavy like a plastic filled Instagram model. Bruh. It puts a lot of pressure on this hinge right here. And you may not notice, but if you're just putting it sideways like this, there's a lot of pressure on this hinge. So if you're putting it sideways, you're lifting it, you need a strong selfie stick. You need a selfie stick that is able to support this weight. And Insta360 themselves, they sell some selfie sticks that do not support the weight of the 1-inch model. And in my opinion, it should have just like 2 screws. They should have just made something with 2 screws on the bottom. Or there is something else you can do, and that is get yourself a very nice rig like this one. So this is a rig I got on eBay. It wraps the entire Insta360. Something like this. Okay, so it is locked, has a lock and unlock right here. It's quite simple, and it has rubber feet on the inside, so it just keeps it very steady. You can't pop it out. Once it's in, it's in. Okay, it's grooved. So this is how you have the Insta360, and the way you use it, it's going to be either on its side like this, or you flip it so that the heavy side is on the bottom. The glass, the elements, stick it on the bottom. So if you stick it on the bottom like this, you might have a concern that, is the selfie stick going to show? And it's not. It's inside of this line right here. So if you're inside of this line right here, you're not going to show, even if it's offset like this. So when the difference is that when you're like this, now there is a lot less weight. I mean, there's the same amount of weight. Technically, there's the same amount of weight. It's just that there's no leverage. The leverage is gone because most of the weight is right here. So you have a shorter leverage compared to a longer leverage. You know what I mean? It's just basic geometry. The pivot point is still going to be right here, but there's a lot less pulling down from this side, which is further away in basic geometry, right? You have a longer leverage if all the weight is over here, but if it's over here, it's quite all right. And now that you have it on like this, you can mount other items to it, because this 360, well, this cage, you can technically well, you still need your items right here for the mic mount. So it has other mounting points, but I mean, these mounting points, they're not the greatest if you're trying to mount like a microphone. If you mount it like this, it's definitely going to show up because this microphone right here is not completely covered. And not only that, the wind muff's too darn big. It doesn't need the receiver should be here. But there are ways, and you still have the top if you needed to put on anything. You still have the screw up here. You have the GoPro mounts, which I would never use, to be honest. They're just not strong enough if it's still mounted the wrong way. But now that the Insta360 is mounted, you have another concern, is that wouldn't your footage be upside down? And that is not the case. This camera knows the orientation that it's in. So if you have it downwards like this, it's going to flip it automatically. The footage is automatically flipped for you. If you have it sideways like this, the footage is automatically flipped for you. And the sideways mount works great as well, because when you have it sideways, not only can you mount it on a stick like this, you still have access to your buttons. It's not the greatest access, but it's still there. Oh, there is one flaw though. You see this thing is moving? It's because this screw hole, for whatever reason, it's not that deep. And that is kind of sad that this manufacturer didn't make it deep enough for a lot of these quarter 20 mounts. And it's not an extraordinary long mount. It's just normal size and it doesn't fit. So you're gonna need a little bit of a washer, or like I have this cage part that you can put on there. It's a monitor mount, and I had to drill out one of the holes to make it work that way. But if you use, I mean, it just depends on your selfie stick. I believe the shorter selfie stick works just fine this way. And on top of that, if you're mounted this way, you can also mount it on your chest. So you could do like chest mount point of view style videos, and it works fine for that. So if you have it standing upwards on your chest, there is so much more flex. There's so much more pivot pressure because of the heavy front element that it's really easy to have it flop over. The camera is just too heavy on top, and it's going to put too much pressure on the GoPro mounts. So when you mount it on the sideways, it's the same thing. You relieve all the pressure, and the pivot point is just so much smaller, and there's just no leverage in yanking down the camera. So you have a much steadier camera mount, despite, I mean, this is still going to be heavy. It's still over 200 grams. So whatever mount, you can definitely feel it. It's like the size of a large iPhone 15 Pro Max type of phone. It's heavy. And that's why, because it's heavy, you need to distribute the weight properly. And that way, you're not going to run into issues where your camera can be compromised. Because if you put too much pressure on the tripod stick, it can break. It can drop off, it can unscrew off because all the pressure is not well. It just can't handle it. So other than that, this is how you would rig up an Insta360 camera. You can rig it up with power. You can rig it up with power and audio. This is the CNC camera protective frame case rabbit cage for Insta360 One RS camera. It is $20 and it will save your sanity. Anyhow, that's all I got for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to like, subscribe, share. See you in the next one. Take care.